I can't do it, guys. I can't do it.
Bloodborne is the best game of all time. Moving on, the One Reborn is the worst boss. I was about to make Bloodborne the worst game of all time. I held a vote on my channel which boss I should turn everything into. Behold, a shining example as to why democracy is flawed and that I should be king of the planet. This vote will become extremely important in a few minutes. I imagine that the One Reborn came out on top because everyone visualized what can be compared to a farmer's idea of a rave. Detonated eardrums, flashy laser spam, being kicked by the fleshy mass of bodies in the middle, and let's not forget the errant disco ball constituted by various disembodied rotting body parts. Also, it's the moon. There is no escapism in sobering up in the bathroom and looking yourself in the mirror and going, what the fuck? The good thing is that when this happens, you usually aren't on an operating table. Oh, by the way, randomizing prevents me from altering my appearance, so I did it vicariously on another save. This is rather tame when it comes to bricking the game. Did you know it's impossible to lie and ask a question simultaneously? My first foe is stunned by such introspection to the point that its textures take their leave along with its moveset. The fleshy behemoth may be harmless while I set up shop underneath it, but this would probably take the rest of my life since I didn't turn on scaling like an idiot. So I go outside and instantly evacuate my bowels in fear of the stimuli that could encroach upon my holy temple. But another homunculus beats me to the punch with pissing noises of the highest ferocity. Good thing I'm a fan of fried chicken. Blood vials are a pain in the ass, or well, that's what it looks like anyway. So being blessed with 300 dozen, 600 dozen, nay, 1200 dozen souls before even reaching the first bonfire somewhat changes the pacing of this game. Just a smidgen. The bands stack ever higher, showing me the power of trust fund babies and how I could have lived a life completely out of touch with most people. Now all I need to do is go to Hunter's Dream and deposit my enormous hedge fund away from the normies.
No, go back. Oh no.
Okay, hold on a second. Scotty might be having trouble beaming me up because of hitboxes? Well, perhaps not. It could be due to aggro. But if that's the case, anything that is spawned in needs to die, because it's aggro to me by default upon spawning in. These boorish, overgrown offcuts have rendered me penniless. All of these souls that I worked so hard for by simply wasting oxygen. It's unfair. I've accepted the fact that I won't be able to upgrade, well, anything at this rate. But I at least need weapons to be able to make this video somewhat interesting. Now equipped with my second favorite weapon and second favorite pistol and second favorite book, I can take on the wall of meat, fair and square. This bonfire is cooked, but I have plenty of other options. I make it to Yosefka's bonfire on my first try for starters.
Nah, why can't I use it?
It very much seems now that I've cacked up. I am King Midas if everything he touched turned into hot, angry shit. 500,000 souls in 5 minutes, and I can't spend a single one of them. It's poetic, honestly. All of Central Yarnum is filled to the brindle with liquid meat and vertexes and awful audio balancing, but it doesn't affect me, not physically. I suppose me and the false Great One are in the same karmic alignment. So much power, but no way to act on it. Like how my mobile phone could destroy the planet, I just have no idea how to realize that. Instead of constructive commentary or funny narrative fluctuations, I just opened the shortcut. Wait, no, I've just beaten Cleric Beast, who can do literally nothing to hurt me because I'm underneath it the whole time. And no, this bonfire also did not work. So, like the coward I am, I unrandomize and create a new rule that supersedes morality. In order to spend my souls, I will create a credit system, where beating one boss grants me 1 credit to unrandomize and do my filthy cheating with. Also, they stack. This is important. And suddenly I have an outlet for my riches. A gajillion blood vials, why not? 200 homeward bones, the Artorias key. I've lit this candle, so I may as well burn the house down. Stake driver, the best weapon, is now mine. Nothing can stop this momentum at this point. The sewers bow down to me. Gascoigne crumbles. Upper Cathedral Ward is but an afterthought, and Amelia has the gall to put up a fight while I euthanize her. This isn't what I wanted. This is way too easy. There are no stakes, no rise and fall in action, no emotional tangibility. No, what I'm missing is fear. I want to be scared of the change brought about by turning a single corner. I want to experience defeat at my most vulnerable. And most of all, I want to regret everything. So I return to the election results and ignore the winner for something more favorable. The runner-up was the horse, so let's use my test profile and see what that's like. So I return to the election results and ignore the runner-up for something more favorable. Orphan of Cause came in third. So I pick Amygdala, since in my mind it had the perfect mix of the other three. Frantically offensive, autistically screeching, enormous monstrosity. The results of the experiment are yielded in the test profile. The rave is boisterous, speakers hopping, lasers imploding me, and the crowd lets me by just enough to see where I need to go, but ultimately minces me to death. This is it. This is the run I will do. I don't know or care if this counts as clickbait in some way, but I thought it would be funny as fuck to lie about it. The greatest FPS romance of all time wasn't even Snake for the majority of it. In one's brain, the amygdala controls fear, and much like fear, it crept up silently and overwhelms everything in its presence. This time I scaled the enemies. This is evident by me surviving a nuclear spank out of nowhere. A strong start indeed. I decide to get clapped here right off the bat, since I won't be able to use bonfires. I pick a weapon I thought would be most effective, and the only one I would use for the rest of the video. The Hunter's Axe. It has a huge reach in its trick form, which was all I'd be using since I can't parry Amygdala. I took the pistol anyway, since I imagined I'd need it for aggro and shit like that. I don't like switching things up like this, but it was a necessary development, and a natural part of life. The alternative would have been stagnation. Now that the run has actually started, let's brush up on the rules. I am obligated to do the following. Pick Deprived, level only Strength, and beat every single boss, excluding Chalice dungeons. I pick up 2 of the only blood vials I'd be getting, since I can't buy them, and encounter the end-all be-all of the whole run, the laser attack. In each of these challenges, there was one single thing that ruined everything, that made it almost intolerable and brought me to tears. Neon lava, slam attack, water effects, the projectile attack, the game crashing, the rancor skulls, and for this one, it's the accursed laser attack. The run would have been both far easier and far more difficult. It's a bit like lighter fluid, in the sense that I would certainly be alive a lot more, and also that it's the only way the amygdalas can actually damage each other. But it has its own rules. It uses line of sight, other than when it doesn't. It shows you where it'll pop, other than when it doesn't. It follows a fixed path at the player, other than when it doesn't. It is truly the definition of chaos, and there is nothing scarier than utter confusion. I'm like an orangutan who keeps grabbing a candle. Every single time I do another challenge run, I'm shocked and appalled at how awful it is, as if it would be any better this time. This hobby is the definition of insanity. Paranoia has successfully engulfed my entire existence, as can be seen by even the AFKs keeping me at bay. Having had our crisis, it's time to forge on this fresh trail, a true pioneering expedition, a path never before trodden for very reasonable reasons. The lasers are doing both of their intended jobs, which is to scare the shit out of me and to incinerate other amygdalas. Any damage I take, I will simply take, since I only have a limited stock of blood vials. Because, like before, I can't use any of these souls. And at the top of the ladder is where I'd proceed to spend the next 3 hours. I don't mean Central Yardom, really. I mean this precise location, this clearing, the 3-meter radius around the bonfire, etc. My prison. All I could do was sit around. In the other runs I had a bow to speed things up and have a semblance of control, but here I have no control at all. Spawns seem random. The moveset too. The pathing is much the same because of course it needed sophisticated pathing, if you can even call it that. Even when I die, it's usually completely unexpected. The cherry on top is that the amygdalas that drop souls are also random. Sometimes I get none, other times I get 100,000. There's no way of knowing. I sink deeper into terror. I decide to use a single blood vial to bring myself to full, because after waiting for 10 minutes to gun it to this gate just to never use it, I was really feeling what awaited me in my own head, where hell truly resides. But having gotten down here, I noticed that this overpass has trapped an unsuspecting goober. This is my opportunity to learn its moveset in the context of this run, since anything resembling combat generally devolves into something like this. My damage is piss poor, but I have a pretty good strategy already. This triple slime gives me ample time to hit him twice with light attacks. The long slime gives me a single heavy. The absolute cinema, or De Niro and heat attack gives me a single heavy. For its own offense, it has the lasers, which can be avoided behind this buttress, and this sleam, which doesn't really do much for either of us. And occasionally, very occasionally, it will take a laser blast up the rectal that does more than I could ever hope for. This exploit is the only damage dealer for the whole run, if I'm being honest. This opens up the plaza for reckoning.
Oh, wow.
Wait, no. A little more idling to get a few more, and now I can get a proper gander at
We'll just stand right here. Thank you very
this. In this messy exchange, I take a couple hits, bringing my blood vial count to 6. But the sheer animosity experienced here eviscerates everything in a matter of seconds. By the double doors are 2 more vials, under the watchful AVP of the sole remaining amygdala in the plaza. I shimmy up to the tree square, or what I like to call the tree square, where a different sort of problem raises its ugly mug. Instead of a tight corridor or an amalgamation of hatefulness, I get a dispersed population that centers on me and almost never damages other amygdalas. To bait them all into hitting each other would take eons. That is, until I receive a surprise appendix exam, and almost die. This is what I am most scared of. To make it this far in my only opportunity, only to fuck up right when I was about to get the shortcut. Desperation takes hold, and I run around wildly, taking another laser. Right as it seems I was about to die, I find a safe corner. Well, as safe safe gets, which is to say, not. It was more or less over, and like a soldier taking heavy fire, I contemplate my life choices behind a wall that's getting whittled to powder. That was until I mustered the courage to walk over to this bench and pick up 6 blood vials. And just like that, my anxieties slipped away and were replaced by a sickening bravado. The shortcut was right here. I had to get it, or I may never do so again. This was my very first attempt at this whole gauntlet, and I was terrified for the monotony I would be facing if I failed here. I impatiently wait for the day I finally snap. In-game is very much the same, as my impatience racks up for some almost fatal hits with the laser. The bridge felt like it was the only thing sitting between me and the shortcut, even though that wasn't true in the slightest. But I was desperate. I take another laser, and a spank to the booty cheeks, thanks to my arrogance. I had exhausted essentially every single available blood vial because I believed that I could make it. No, I knew I could make it. The ever-so-present threat forces me into this offshoot path, where I bear my gatherings. At this rate, I was better off chancing my fortune and just going for it. As is commonly agreed upon, it does tend to favor the bold.
Fuck. No! Fuck!
Something I hadn't discovered in my research yet was how quit-outs behaved. In every FromSoft game, all it does is reset the enemy positions, even in Bloodborne. But for me, they make everything spawn back in. Even better, the game crashing forced me back a bit, and spawned me right in the middle of where it was worst. A room with too many corners is bound to contain at least 1 bottle of cheese, but let's just say the mouse has had its fill. All of that, what totaled almost 50 minutes of a single attempt, was over. Gone.
Oh, holy fuck. Oh, I'm gonna fucking die in real
And
life.
thus began a
Oh,
journey.
holy
I knew exactly what came next, and it was certainly familiar. I would have to begin the entire process from scratch. Except instead of about 20 blood vials, I would have 7. There is a sort of comfort in familiarity. It's a stimulus that can be rather accurately predicted, and there is certainly satisfaction getting it right.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
4 vials. It is addictive to be scared all the time. It's an endless well of dopamine that will last you your lifetime. It becomes routine at some point, and if we're being honest, we are completely dysfunctional without. The difference is whether or not you will be ruined by your worries. 3 vials. Though if you dwell on one thing for too long, it's stagnation. The familiarity reaches a point where it brings nothing, not even pain. One day you realize that instead of new experiences, you've been toiling in the same dark hole for quite some time.
Oh my god, no.
2 vials.
No.
In each of these attempts, I truly believed that I would make it to the shortcut, which is why I kept healing up, even right up to the last vial. Even when I had none left. The consequences of failure were too much to even comprehend at this point, and avoiding reality caused me to experience some elation at the fact that it was, in a certain way, over for this run. And subsequently, it was. How on earth do I go on from here? Now, with the shortcut open, all it takes is to clear this house of wrongdoers before the bridge opens up to me. For reasons unknown though, it refuses to let me in completely. By that I mean it nukes my game whenever I get anywhere close to Cleric Beast. I'll just say it now, Cleric Beast is the only boss I wasn't able to beat for the whole run. Would you believe me if I said I was lying? To make matters worse, my character explodes right after upon loading in, because who gives a fuck? So now what? Well, with the shortcut open, all it takes is to clear the house of wrongdoers before the secondary bridge opens up to me. For reasons certainly known though, it lets me in completely. Our funny little T-posing friend keeps us company on company time, while his friends amputate each other's heads. I am quite idiotic, unfortunately. I was once in special ed. Seriously. My citation for this is right here, where I 1v1 an amygdala, take damage, and pick up a homeward bone instead of the blood vials I thought they were. So now I have to go into the Blastoise fight with 0 heals, and enough tank for 1 or 2 hits, depending. I had 0 intentions of having a fair fight, and I never do and never will. Fear may be ruination, but I'll give it one thing. It is by far the best implement with which to carve a strategy. I deliberate just enough to come up with something, but not enough to start spiraling. When I walk in, I'll make for the stairs right away, and bait attacks from behind the tree. This plan goes to pot immediately, and I stupidly take a fist to the spleen. I am now 1 hit, no matter what. But the plan remains. First off, Molotovs. At 150 damage, it would have been lovely if I could hit all 5, but I missed 3 of them. Next. There is no next. Amygdala interrupts my train of thought, which now has no choice but to crash into the station. Of all the bosses to have sophisticated pathing, why this one? It wouldn't be that bad if it was good at it too. Instead it just spins in place and acts really annoying. Anyway, it's stuck now. It seems to inch up every few minutes, but it's essentially trapped here. If you recall, I have 3 attacks that allow me to follow up with a punish. The Spank, the Junior Double Triple Whopper, and the De Niro. My favorite is the Triple Whopper since it gives me the most time. And so, for the next 25 minutes, I grinded away at my teeth. If there is 1 attack every 10 seconds, that's a lot of attacks. Every time it squeezed its nuts out of its head, my sphincter would pucker, to the point that it cramps even to this day, which is 14 days since I started. This run took me 2 weeks. Although that one bonfire kept me company for about 3 hours, a total of 5 in Central Yharnam has finally come to a head. And if I'm being completely honest, I was hanging on by a thread. I had to win, or it was the lives of many at risk, but I had jinxed it. As if my day couldn't get any worse. I beat Gascoigne, meaning the run would continue.
I'm free.
I am 100% positive that I did not randomize the NPCs. This here situation is caused either by that being a lie or that this NPC is considered an enemy, which is tragic. Whatever. What I desire most of all right now is to use the credit I just earned. With, you hear my toe pop there? With 20,000 dozen souls I can buy the whole world. Before I do that, I should go get the brooch in Gascoigne's arena. Good thing I still have enough HP to make it down the ladder safely. Strangely, I get spawned in Hunter's Dream with 10 vials. This could be part of the mod package in the game files I downloaded, which broke upon randomizing. Sadly, the brooch was a waste of time, but I get the axe to +1 and buy an immense number of vaccines, the likes of which would turn even the proudest horse into a cuber, and a serviceable amount of bullets because I just like having 20 of them, even if they're useless. And to top it off, I bring my strength to 46, which unfortunately in this game does piss all to improve damage. Back at the church, I spent the remainder of my souls on pebbles. I don't say this lightly. Without pebbles, this run would have been completely impossible. Because Cleric Beast is an impossibility due to the game clarting itself, I will have to beat Bloodstarved Beast to continue the game normally. The direction is downward, and the place of refuge is this staircase thingy, while I wait for the locals to atomize themselves in pursuit of me. Unfortunately for me, this means waiting. A lot of waiting. So much waiting, in fact, that I decided a better use of my time would be to start and finish reading 20 CB in the meantime. I'm only half joking, too. Like I mentioned earlier, amygdalas drop souls randomly. Sometimes I get none, and sometimes every single one drops 21 Gs. In any case, I didn't really care for however many souls I got because the road to Bloodstarved Beast was guaranteed to be on par with what happened in the Balkans in the 90s. Once the local populace has decreed a ceasefire on themselves, I trot along down to the open area. My training arc has culminated in a fully fledged understanding of how to avoid amygdala entirely, because avoidance is the best way to live your life. I am yet to legitimately face an opponent. This amygdala felt the same way. A little quirk of the unsophisticated sophisticated pathing is that it likes to turn away and attack nothing for seemingly no reason. When I want a laser attack to beam the guy in front, it's really annoying. But if I, for example, wanted to slip by with ease, it's like a shot of oxygen. In preparation of BSB, I spoke with Alfred. The laser geysers singe my buttocks, and this downstairs friend gives it a light sniff to appraise the damage, and before I know it, we're in old Yarnum, the epicenter of singed buttocks in this universe. For once I get to fool around and loot whatever without having to worry about disintegration. I also get my first kill reward in over 30 minutes. From here on out, it's a matter of waiting on the other side of the bridge, throwing bullet and mollies to speed up the process and take needless damage, as per usual. I don't understand how something this boring can be this stressful, but I could compare it to factory work on a Friday evening. Jura is itching to blast my ass into the grass with his hilarious little minigun. Past me is in deep contemplation right about now, begging for the possibility that his bullets hurt amygdala, but I just can't see that happening with my luck. The last guy is struggling, but still standing, as there is nobody behind him to destroy what's left. I'm fairly confident in my ability to evade responsibility, so I just do that while searching for the best way down. Before that can happen, Jira rips my nuts off with a barrage, nearly killing me. A regroup is needed. If I want to overcome this area, I must first overcome a litany of war crimes, a hail of bullets, and a plasma storm. But I have to go sooner rather than later, because a battle of attrition will only hurt me in the long run in this area. I'm like 10% of the way through and eating through vials like a tree in heat. Between the amygdala above me, the amygdalas below me, the amygdalas in the room behind me, and Jira unleashing a hail of diarrhea upon my head, the timer was ticking. Fuck it. Fuck it all! I have to go. But right when I need it at least, an NPC confirms its own existence and slides his cleaver up through my cheeks until death. So on my very next attempt, out of fear of reliving Central Yarnum and aggravating that PTSD, I just run like my ass depended on it, because it did, ultimately ending up right where the NPC loses aggro and then regains it and then loses it, and honestly just acts the prick in front of everyone. I haven't mentioned it until now because it seemed kind of obvious, but this is what is called a safe spot, where I can stand completely still while everything around me dies. Normally I would have a bow with me, but Bloodborne doesn't have anything of the sort. Moving on to the attic section. I mentioned before that pebbles would save the entire run. Well, this is not where it happens. The most unwelcome of hosts shall receive the most unwelcome of shits in its toaster, and I take my leave out the rear end of the church to open this mostly, if not entirely, useless shortcut to the ladder. Because I'm a little delayed in the mind, I struggle to find the path forward, but this delay came back to bless me by having killed most of everything by the time I got there. I know the whole vibe of this area has been somewhat laid back, considering the circumstance and all, but it really was, at least compared to what I just experienced. Driving this home are these two questionable fellows who can't decide if they're friends or not. They mostly are, and I am able to connect with them on a personal level enough to finally cut their heads off. With that said, let's play a little minigame. You must now predict where and when I die, and in what manner. First, it came this gate.
Ow!
Squashed between the first offender, its friend, and this prospective friend, I have to tank multiple laser blasts. Having barely escaped with my life, I recuperate my losses and my HP, and am left with a meager handful of vaccines with which to spurg out. We've made it. We've made it! But have I? This whole area has been so easy, but I just can't seem to push away this nagging paranoia that I somehow don't deserve this sort of progress, that it's been too long without something going catastrophically wrong. But perhaps that's something for later in the video. Fortunately or unfortunately, the return trip had been all but cleared for me to go forth. Unfortunately or fortunately, I only have 5 vials to my name to fight BSB with. On top of that, I take some completely unnecessary hits that remind me that the letter E is lime green. In the spirit of having no intentions of a fair fight and harkening back to speaking with Alfred, I summon Alfred as an automation of the FromSoft boss fight design. Humans and automation. I don't want to do this. You will do it for me. The fight goes horribly. Alfred sucks donkey nuts, and I get smeared between each and every tile without flaw. I think summoning him increased the boss's HP somewhat, so I think I will forego that and just use my 20 vials. Or not. I now have to go AFK inside the bell tower for time periods measured by holding a rock in my palm and waiting for the air to erode it. And those 300k souls are all but vanished now, so I don't care. But that's boring and it wasn't that awful. I make it back to BSB with 18 vials and a somewhat stable psyche. The fight was relatively easy, all things considered, but that's only because there aren't any attacks that one-shot me yet, other than if I jumped while getting hit by the laser at full throttle, for example. I knew plainly that I had this and then Amelia, and from then on out, it was going to be uncontested nut pain. With my well-earned credit, I buy more blood vials, some bullets, a couple levels in strength, and a warp to the church. With the upper cathedral door now open, I just had to find my way to Amelia and open the gates. That is, if I knew where the figgity-uck to look. I begin my search for my destination, which isn't so stupid, but I stupidly die to this fuckwit outside the church. This fuckwit just so happened to be a snatcher, and snatchers just so happened to place me in Yahar Ghul, which I just so happened to be unable to escape, because I cannot warp. But now what do I do? I'm out of credits, meaning I can't unrandomize, meaning I can't warp out, but neither of those are necessarily true is the thing. There is a boss in Yahar Ghul at this point in time, Dark Beast Paul. It was decided that I had to defeat Paul to escape this hellhole of enemies that one-shot me, pretty much no matter what. A cursory exploration of the level showed me that the loot was awful. The way to Paul was filled beyond the brim with irate paralysis demons, so in the name of patience I need to... Oh, fuck it, man, I'll just run through. Why not? Because spamming the run back with haste seemed to get me further, quicker. So before the majority of amygdalas can be woken up by friendly fire, I lube up and slip by unnoticed between their cheeks and into Paul's arenal. The trouble seemed far from over, however, since all I could hear was nuclear fission on the inside of my eustachian tubes. I thought I would have to be on guard for the duration of the fight, so I summoned some random dude to fight Paul while I took stock of the situation. As predicted, the damage was awful, but this guy Antal had absolutely insane poise damage with his weapon, and could honestly solo amygdala at this rate. And he did. I tossed a couple mollies, fluffed him up here and there, get stepped on a few times, et voila. Another fight in my pocket. Another credit to my name. Unfortunately no souls, but all I need is some farming to suddenly lose touch with my humanity and prioritize profits above all else. I wish I wrote down what I did with my credit, like did I level up, or spend it on blood vials, or what? But I have no idea. I didn't record it. I think I popped a couple levels. Future me here, it turns out I leveled my axe to +4, and I got strength to 72. Future me signing out. Anyway, I now know where to go, which is the church workshop. Here we have a friend, constantly spinning, probably trying to convey to me in some way that it's in pain, but it has no mouth with which to scream. I leave Lawnmower Man to suffer, purely out of spite. In this position it is but a dawdle, and in no time I am greeted by the goat friend downstairs, blessing me with a safe passage. A blessing indeed, since I'm able to grab the elevator and the gate to the church, and I'm even right on Amelia's doorstep. Amygdalia uses the climbing animation to start the fight. Fruitless indeed. Wait a second. This has all been insanely easy ever since I was able to buy blood vials. We're right back to where we were with the One Reborn. Only it took 10 times longer. I'm afraid of this becoming too easy now, even after all that torture up to this point. I'm not regretting it. Fuck. To rectify this discrepancy between theoretical and actual degrees of suffering, it was only natural to head toward Hemwick Charnel Lane. In celebration, I update my drip. The starting area, although utterly descended into chaos, was nothing more than panic rolling back and forth until I saw an opening and took it. Without any credits to my name, and unable to rest at any bonfires, lighting this lamp was one of the worst decisions I have ever made. This decision cost me dearly. The majority of the suffering is within earshot.
Lordy.
The open area detonates before I even fully load in, which is lovely and all, but it naturally only leaves me one to assault my behind. This means having to 1v1 an entire full HP amygdala, since it was at the back. Until then, I jork my shit to occupy myself in my free time. I move up to the second circle of hell, the terraces. It's nearly ideal, because while there are like a million of them all stacked on each terrace, there is a single amygdala just chilling at the bottom, right along with me, ruining fucking everything. So it's back to the open area, jorking my shit. I try to run past everything along the left side for a magnificent failure. Back to the open area, jorking my shit. I try to run past everything along the right side to break down into a pathetic little sack of despair. Back to the open area, I refrain from jorking to run past this shit, and right here is where I realized that I was right back, in the sort of place that I feared most. I now had to construct a stupid puzzle that I would only ever use one time in my whole life. My specialty. I'll skip over the boring shit that I already talked about. You'll have to forgive the frantic fugue state as I processed my grief. For a brief moment I considered returning, but I mean, I wouldn't even be spawning at the church or cathedral bonfires. I would have to find a new one. Now, having jorked my fill, it's time to use my brain for once. At the expense of an extra 5 calories per minute, I dance on the adjoining staircase to avoid laser attacks from the terraces and even more from the open area. The purpose being to have the tree amygdala die and give me room to breathe. With it dead, I was finally allowed to bait the terrace dwellers to death for once, but due to the shape of this particular area, it's extremely easy to get clapped by a stray laser outside my line of sight. Cool, super awesome. It goes well until one of them invites themselves into my private quarters, out of range from the only other remaining amygdala near the shortcut gate. But that's fine, since I only need to run up past it and fuck me, there's more down the path. Fuck. Scratch that plan. That plan sucks. That gate shortcut is the second of 2, which is more than 1, and the first of 2, which comes before the second, is right here. And just so happens to be the perfect spot to bait the amygdalas that stopped me in my tracks last time round. It also happens to be the perfect refuge for the open area and terrace amygdalas. Upon rising emergence, I have to fuck about and lose 10 of my 14 blood vials for literally no reason because this open area guy just dies to spam through the choke point. And with my 6 fully covered, I just have to wait for the terrace dwellers to kill each other, like the diligent little friends that they are, so that... What the fuck am I doing? Why did I push up that way? As I was saying, wait for the Geiger counter to explode before going to the first shortcut and start screaming relentlessly. Not for any reason really, maybe you just need it. Once everything has stopped dying, it's time to move up to the staircase. And there's seemingly no need to pay attention to the remaining amygdala because it can't hit me, no matter what. And now I wait for this light show to cease operations, which is riveting. Repeat at the terraces until one remains and punish the spank, triple slam, and De Niro attacks. Why am I writing this in a guide format? If anything, it should be presented as cautionary information to avoid ending up doing this sort of stuff. At long last, I am free to move around essentially wherever I please. Baiting at the foist shortcut was important for this exact moment. A light stroll, full of smug. To the elevator. I sure hope I don't need to use this again. It's scary at first glance, and scary it is. This bridge B, not helped by the fact that, ooh, free Titanite shards, and free kills. This rooftop section is iffy to begin with, so I may as well wait for the storm to pass underhead while I think of a stratagem. So anyways, I started blasting. Grabbed the absolute worst shortcut I could ever hope for, considering what I have to go through to even use it, and make for the mansion at the Hanging Hill. Let's have a little chat. When I randomized my game, I intentionally neglected to tick the box that says Fair Hemwick Witches, which I interpret to mean that there will only be 1 or 2 amygdalas in the arena. While I'm talking about it, I didn't tick the same box for Shadows, or Rom, or One Reborn, or Failures, or Emissary. Use your imagination and then compare it to what this boss fight is like.
Okay. Thank you for that, amygdala. That was fucking cool. Did that before I even got in. Again. Damn.
It's terrible. Back where we started. Elevator. Bridge. Rooftop. Gate. Hill. How could I possibly hope to beat this fairly? That's the neat part. I won't. And if ever I possibly can, never will. In this run, I'll use the cheapest, most underhanded techniques to get what I want, as can be seen by the central Yarnum shortcut incident. I mean, what? And here too, I have zero intention of having a fair fight. Instead, I will do as humans do and automate the fuck out of it. Before I even get inside the arena, they lasered the fuck out of the first witch, but there is indeed a second one. The highbrow strategy I have in store for this part of the fight is to run and hide, just like reality. And just like in reality, it works perfectly to make your problems go away permanently. With 35,000 dozen souls, I buy 100 vaccines and a couple bullets to keep it at a nice 20. Upgrade the axe to +5 and yeah, I think that's what I did during that part I didn't record. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back now. Lastly, I level strength to 82, and now it's time for the worst thing I've experienced since Central Yharnam. The trek to Forbidden Woods begins with the door. Getting to the door, while relatively easy, makes the middle of my brain hot and kinda itchy. It makes me want to scratch it with an ice pick to alleviate the pressure. I forgot to touch Lawrence's skull. Whoa! Turns out I actually did touch Lawrence's skull. My character just forgot. Before experiencing the area firsthand, I expected Forbidden Woods to be kind of easy, because in my mind it was more open than most areas and chock full of enemies, ready to zap each other to Kingdom Come. But this, I could never have anticipated this. Or maybe I could have. The number 8 is magenta. The lamp is free from danger, so far. And the log trap still works, although it doesn't help me. What I should have seen coming from leagues away is the fact that Forbidden Woods is a vast network of tight corridors and staggered enemy groups, leaving dozens of isolated amygdalas blocking every possible route. These routes are stacked, intertwining, adjacent, every sort of orientation, and these isolated amygdalas become lethal sentry turrets that hail lasers onto my coordinates like I'm an Afghani mailman. This kills me in game, but what kills me in real life is the fact that my only bonfire has 3 enemies stacked right on top of it as soon as I spawn in. This area is going to be the death of me. It takes everything I have just to spawn in. It takes everything I have just to make it 3 seconds out of spawn. Everything I have to make it to the only spot that is even remotely safe. And it is not safe at all. It takes everything I have not to bite down on my tongue until it comes off. This spot I mentioned is the only place I knew of that let me survive more than 2 microseconds. And if I succeeded in living that long, I get to move down to whatever this little gate thing is called, beside what I will dub Hole Town, named after the hole in the middle of the town. This gate, in my mind, was essentially the halfway point of this area. But just take a look at this map. I was going to find out soon enough anyway. Tying here wasn't so bad, it only takes like 20 minutes to get halfway through. Nice! Oh man. But I wasn't anywhere close to done. In fact, I make it out of spawn immediately after that try. Granted, I get squished right after, but I make it out again, like it was nothing. This was the try. I was feeling it. I get to what I will call the laser tag corner, and tough it out for exactly 9 minutes, 3 seconds, and 54 milliseconds. Hole Town had no idea whose hole I was going to be going to town on, but let's just say the buffet won't be having an open casket service. The gate by Hole Town is right next to the kennels, where I died last time. I'd love to just chill here and wait for everything to die, but some random fuckhead decides that right now is the best time to discover the intricacies of Friend's various miracles. To combat this, I squeeze past these heckin' chonkers. If I just squeeze past, please just... Thank you. I squeeze past to take shelter in the cave of Plato. The flashing lights are behind me, but they illuminate the walls inside. If I didn't know any better, this is all reality would be to me. A place exempt from the flurries of life. Its tumultuous nature distilled to shadows that dance in front of me. If only I didn't know any better. Life would be so much simpler. There would be no stresses, no new stimuli, no changes. Changes... It might be the scariest part about being conscious. If only I didn't experience anything new, I would know exactly how the rest of my life would play out. Would I be this scared? Wouldn't it be so much easier if I didn't do anything, and if nothing ever happened to me? But this is reality. Eventually I would have to crawl out of the cave. I can't go through the inside because it seems it has infinitely respawning enemies. I would have to face it head on, whether I liked it or not, because this video would be nowhere near as interesting, wouldn't it? I begin my flight. My aim was to cross the rooftops, which felt like the only way I could possibly make progress. To my own shock, it starts working. All I had to do was leave my little cave, to put my left foot forward and continue with the right. Forward was the only way to... I'm not done. The left side was a sham. I accept that. But there was still the right side that leads to Hole Town. Eventually I'm let out of spawn, and eventually I'm allowed to set up shop at the bottom of this gully. The closest thing so far to a safe spot. Exactly 8 minutes, 42 seconds, and 3 milliseconds of waiting lets me invade the interiors of Whole Town, and to the interior of its namesake.
Fuck.
The hole in the middle, it seemed, was the perfect safe spot. It was right in the center and out of sight for every single amygdala in its vicinity. And I was right. I wait for everything to stop dying before searching for the way forward. My memory served to tell me that there was a small waterway with a small cave, with a shortcut. I just had to... I'm not done. The gully strat, followed by the hole strat, was golden. What fucked me up last time was losing my paranoia for a split second. In other words, complacency got the better of me. I will use this intrepid sense of anxiety to propel me forward, to keep me on my toes. To run away, yes, but to run away forwards. The waterway opens up to me, and thusly, the shortcut. Normally completely useless, in this case, a perfect place to bait amygdalas into dying. Back to the waterway I go, where I am permanently on guard, awaiting the inevitable cannon fire that one-shots even the tankiest hunters. Any second now it'll...
Oh, that's great.
I'm not done. The cave was the best place I could ask for to bait enemies into dying thus far. It's far from perfect. In fact, it's anything other. However, it's all I have. The waterway has a secret lay-by shack that also functions as a pseudo-safe spot. I take hits, of course, but these are hits that I can tank with my chinny chin chin, and hits that the other amygdalas cannot. I covered the walls of this shack with tinfoil to keep the V2K space lasers far from my louche deposits within my mind, and before I know it, I make it. Well, I make it to the windmill. The only thing greeting me in here is who I shall call the Oracle. It praises me for not giving in to the whims of fate, for not allowing the chaos of life's alterations to get the better of me.
Getting too much sunlight.
It thanks me as I chop it to pieces. And so the windmill was empty, I think. The elevator was totally open. But it wasn't just the elevator I needed to open. I had to open the wrought iron door at the top by the bonfire too. Wait, this is the second elevator.
What?
The other one is a ways away. I had no other choice but to lay out all of my cards. To go all in. I felt it in my bones that this was going to be the try. I went for it. And now there was the door. I find myself right where I was countless times before, sitting like a duck, but no longer. My own fate is in my own hands, and I'll even break it with my own hands if it comes down to it. The fight was far from over, unlike Walter. The second half of Forbidden Woods was what I had in mind the first time. I only had 5 vials, so dying here was honestly a blessing. I first tried the far right side of the map because it was a lot more open, but with an immense amount of enemies. It went well until it didn't, because I didn't have enough Röntgens flowing through my DNA at this point. Maybe it was punishment for jorking it the whole way down. In honor of Walter and his dumbass friend, I crowned myself king of the planet with the one-eyed helm. My threads, ice cold to begin with, now had an aura about them. This attempt would see me move down the left path, along the road and the piss spots along the way. It was perfect. Tree after tree, enemy after enemy. Perfect for continuous baiting, lasering, and progression. It's like the one-eyed helm protected me from the outside world. Not being able to see, I had nothing to look at, and thus nothing to fear. The acoustics were deep fried to the point that I couldn't make sense of, and thus ignore everything around me. I get ballsy. I kickflip over heads. I make dashes toward unknown goals because I no longer cared. In only 10 minutes, I make it to the final respite, the smelly pond. I unlock the final elevator, but if I'm being real, I didn't really need it. Well, I probably did, but it's what I believe that matters here. The final road down requires some mad dashes, and not much else. But what could I honestly expect from 3 blood vials? If you ask me, I didn't need them. I didn't have any reason for thinking this. That was, until I came upon the Shadows boss fight.
Let's see what this is like. Oh, they're killing them. No, please don't die to that. You're my only hope.
Is it facing the stresses of change, or radical absurdist acceptance that is the way forward? 400k souls, frickloads of crud vials, runes etched, strength to 88. To nitrous, useless. If I'm being real, Bergenworth was a non-area. It took a grand total of 15 minutes of my time, which is quicker than a normal run for me. I just have to walk around again, Die to this NPC, naturally, and suddenly I'm in the Rom fight. Rom is far and away the hardest boss for me in this game for reasons unknown. I just can't with it. It's like Amygdala, where being greedy usually gets you killed, which is a total antithesis of this game. The Rom fight itself was an improvement. Once the spiders spawned in though, I knew what I was in for. Well, that was until they woke up, finally. I get nuked the first time, my PC gets nuked the second time due to a dozen-fold arena entry animation.
That can't be right. You know what, it isn't.
And Rom herself gets nuked the third time, due to my ingenious tactic of running away. But what I like to call running forward. Living life as a projectile will only lead to fortune. But then it came some Yahar Ghul.
Oh.
This is the third area that incited a mental breakdown, and we're only halfway through those, and halfway through the run at 15 hours. This is by estimation, because every time I try to load a save instead of pressing continue, the emulator crashes and corrupts the recording. It said 15 hours when I checked, so you'll just have to believe me. Using the credit I earned, I added gems to the axe and forgot to upgrade it. Strength has been brought to 94. So, Yahar Ghul has a gimmick. Enemies may not be tanky, but their damage is in-fricking-sane. They number in the thousands, evenly dispersed along the entire level, behind corners and along straights, above, below, and worst of all, they respawn indefinitely. The only way to stop this is to kill the Bell Maiden that has been nestled far away into a corner. There are like 10 of these in Yahar Ghul, and I never managed to kill a single one. Upon spawning in, the entire level catastrophically erupts into chaos. Every enemy seems to be loaded in for whatever reason. Every enemy is now scaled to the point that I'm reminded of that fact, since it hasn't been so obvious until now, which is natural for Yahar Ghul, where scaling suddenly explodes. I try this tree, waiting for everything to die, as if it would ever make a difference. For my first go around, I try sprinting inside, and it works for about 5 seconds. That attempt was as far as I was getting for the next hour of this exact checkpoint. I try baiting back and forth. I try staying in the middle. I try different trees. I try gunning it again. I even try going all the way back to before the level even starts, but none of it ever comes close to working. I don't even know if killing the Bell Maiden will stop everything from dying, so I use the power of vaccines to cause a 5G convergence event, where the government grants me secret lizard powers to go back in time to when I had that credit, and spawned myself literally right past the door. I mean, I know it's possible to get here, please, just give me this. Just this once. I fucking beg. So past this door are a bunch of AFKs, who act all stoic in the presence of my enormous axe. I have a scar on my foot from doing this exact animation in real life, accidentally splitting the chopping block and embedding the axe into the top of my foot. Here is a picture as evidence. I mentioned earlier that pebbles would save the run. Well, this isn't where they do that. I could have used any projectile to aggro this guy who was probably completely safe anyway, but it never hurts to play it safe. I get sick of splitting logs, so I jump down and prove myself wrong. These guys were ready to throw it down once I teabagged them to tears. At this point in time I was completely lost, and scared, and had no idea how to address this. I could accept that fact and muster the courage to open up a map, and see where the fuck I was headed, but I would rather wallow in the familiarity of terror. Luckily, the prison inmates seem to have dropped each other's soap, and I find out that this is exactly the wrong way to go. That's where the Upper Cathedral key is located, which I will acquire in a totally legit manner later in the video. So I'm forced back and holy fuck, why did I do that? I mean, it worked, but geez, man, I could have been so much worse. The warden of this prison is desperate to tear the fabric of my jeans off of my cheeks, but will instead have to tear the fabric of reality with that pose, while I kindly fuck off in the other direction. Why everyone here is AFK is anyone's guess, but the bastards seem to think they can play mind games with me by tearing apart reality because, well, I may have done a small bit of that at the start of the level. Look, this is my video, okay? They seem friendly enough, and I trust them to remain so while I slink on by. I had no idea until it spawned right underneath me, but the amygdalas in the base game spam lasers, right? I knew they were there, but I didn't think they would blow me up as well. If I died here, it would have been a bad day to be 3 cold and unseasoned rotisserie chickens. By the skin of my nails. And I mean, look how close that was. I survived the onslaught, and dandily acquire the next checkpoint. Now this part would require me to, for once, open up this door. And this door. Actually, no, it wouldn't at all, because this bonfire is useless. Wait, I missed a bit. Let's go back just a bit to, here. When I spawn in, I must rely on pure RNG to survive laser blasts that seem to like going through the floor, to slip past this guy on the stairs and this guy by the bell tower. The former bonfire of this area is what greets me, along with 2 absolute dinguses that will not rest until I perish. I don't have the luxury of just running for my life and finding free Titanite shard, finding a quote-unquote safe spot to inevitably die at. I'm being chased to the ends of the earth by these wads who say they're only trying to get me to confront my internal weaknesses by actually speaking with another human instead of vicariously voicing this rhetoric in stupid challenge run videos. Like, leave me alone, man. Okay, so you know the first part involves waiting to die. The second part involves waiting to die. So how about the third part of the gauntlet? No awards go to those who guessed waiting to die, for that is obviously incorrect. Instead, the third part will involve waiting to die. What's that? Alright, so update on the first part, I can just run right through the left side for a blazing fast and extremely effective route with my enemies left right where I left them. Right there on the right, left, right, left. The second part is simple. I just run right the fuck through the left side and turn right. Right? The left has a lift that goes back to the first bonfire, but I can't rest, so can't use that. So I go right. And the One Reborn fight is just down there. So I go left? What the fuck? Looking back at some of this footage is downright chilling, because I can only sort of remember how I was feeling. That is to say, nothing at all at this moment, judging by my reaction.
How's that even possible?
Before the left incident, there was a carriage. This carriage being the only safe spot for the rest of the level. Thankfully, there are only a few enemies, but these ones are different. Apparently this whole time there have been amygdalas with eyes and without eyes. And now there are supercharged versions down here replacing the mini-bosses, who look even meaner. Good thing I don't look people in the eyes, or this would have been much tougher. Now imagine this. 2.5 hours into Yahar'gul. This is the first successful attempt since the last one over 20 minutes ago, where I was able to run down the stairs, through the church, and down the plaza to this carriage. In fact, it's the first attempt where I actually made it to the church. I can tell because I didn't record anything before this carriage since the last time. Now just look at this. Thank you, Bloodborne, for this lovely gift. And so it goes for a while. For a couple whiles. For another hour.
What are we fucking doing with our finite time on this planet?
Give or take.
Well, you're seeing what I'm doing.
So keep this in mind while this clip plays. I need to run down the staircase on the left and survive. Make it through the NPCs without dying. Make it down the plaza with my life intact. Then wait by the carriage until the voices grow restless, and ultimately book it down the road to One Reborn. And this is how that first attempt goes.
Okay. This is great. I'm so glad I started recording. Fuck's sake.
Want to see me do it again?
Wait, but he's dead.
Oh shit!
Want to see me do it again? Wait, holy shit. Now what? Oh, I remember now. I don't have any intentions of having a fair fight. I can just watch from up here. Let me tell you, this felt so much better than it should have. I seared it into my retinas. It felt incredibilis.
There we are.
Whatever this level is called is stupid and fucked up, and I never want to go back. And now we have the Nightmare of Memphis. Before diving headfirst into this bollocks, let me point out the fact that I'm not using the credit that I just earned. I bet none of you watching noticed this, but I got the tonsil stone way back in Forbidden Woods. I need to save a credit for when I want to warp away from Yosefka's clinic to the Hemwick Charnel Lane for when I tackle Castle Painhurt at the end of the video. I digress. This is a little known fact, but the Iron Bucket helmet prevents frenzy from infecting you. So, as it turns out, the Nightmare of Mantis has been neutralized. No, it hasn't. It was still really bad. This first hill is a bit of a shit show and took a long time to fully figure out, but for now I just bomb through it. Spoilers, the optimal way I found out is to bomb through it. And the dreaded spider room, as many had likely already predicted, looks like this.
Oh.
And as many had likely already predicted, this NPC is the single hardest enemy I will ever have to face, ever. He kills me exactly 539 times. I never ended up killing him. That bridge, that hill, that spider room, and the fuck bridge are like 20% of my prospective problems. It's all of this shit on the inside that ruins my life. The NPC claims to just want me to confront the possibility that putting up a facade may keep me from getting hurt, but it will ultimately rot me from the inside, and that I should turn off the cooker because I left the oven on. So I ran out of data just then, and I'm using footage from my HDD. I sure hope it doesn't get corrupted, because that would suck. By the time I'd noticed, though, I'd gotten very proficient at dying repeatedly. I genuinely have to bomb past everything until I reach the elevator room, where gameplay completely grinds to a halt. While this NPC chases me the whole time, spouting nonsense regarding an obvious attempt at keeping others at bay so they never interact with the real me, I realize that I discovered a shortcut. Yippee. Now everything will go perfectly, forever and ever. I should add that it is at this point that I am one shot to every single attack, if it connects properly. Which is more often than not because I can't lock on to lessen damage. Coming up the elevator, I basically have to teleport to the veranda to survive at all, where I then wait for the rest of my life. The rest of my life later, I can... Oh man. I wait behind the staircase for the rest of my life. The rest of my life later, I decide now is the time. The end of life crisis is here, since I missed the middle one. Up the elevator we go. And up my body goes as I die to bullshit. Just fucking great. So from the top, I have to battle the camera in this elevator, wait in this veranda, sneak past the bouncers into the rave basement, survive the rave basement, and after about 20 minutes, you should have an attempt that looks a lot like this. Or perhaps something that looks a lot like this, where I actually make it up the second elevator but accidentally trip the pressure plate again and die like a pathetic little shrimp. I'm allergic to shrimp and kiwis. Skip to the successful attempt, shall we? Once I make it to the top of said elevator, it's a matter of prayer. I don't have a clue as to how this works, but I think the elevator being between me and them would have helped a lot. Once I make it outside, I die fucking immediately, because I just can't anymore with this shit. Sorry, that was a bait. This is the actual successful attempt. With the elevator between me and them, the lasers cleanly bisect me, because my theory with the elevator somehow got me killed even harder. As we all know, cement comes in threes, so the actual successful attempt will just have to wait until I get one more funny death in here. I stopped recording every attempt because a part of me had given up, and decided to just continue from wherever I leave off from the previous death. That being said, there were like 3 AFK amygdalas that refused to wake up, but you didn't see that part, so I left one alive for evidence. But that would be the biggest mistake I ever made. If only I had killed it. I didn't need the evidence. I was worried about the guy in the cage, but if only I knew. Oh wait, that was the attempt. Mikolash is objectively the best FromSoft boss of all time. I improved it. I didn't even know it was possible. All it needs is some screen shake, some permanent cochlear damage, and retinal tearing, and a ship shape for Game of the Year for the second time. Killing him is whatever. Nothing happens. But afterward is a much different story. He spawns at least 5 meters away, somewhere else, and between me and him are at least 5 enemies. But that's not the issue here, because the path to Phase 2 has a battery of sentry turrets lined up to give me my final rectal exam of proportions that wouldn't matter if I studied for it or not. Spawning in is RNG. Getting in through the fog door is RNG. Mikolash is RNG. And now I get all 3 plus Phase 2. I was unbelievably lucky to have an easy Phase 1 with every amygdala being completely harmless. That's all of my built-up karma gone. I spent an agonizing 1 or 2 minutes on this attempt, but because of psychic powers it felt more like 4 or 5. Truly an awful fate. All of that suffering, only for this to happen. This wouldn't last. On the top of the stairs is an enemy. This causes me to completely unravel and change my profile picture to Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul because my heart is now purely darkness and sorrow. About 2 minutes later he gets lasered in the butt to death. And I round the corner. Go back! Enhance. Enhance. More. More! I don't even know what to say. You all know what this means. Now excuse me while I send a picture to Miyazaki and tell him I defeated his own self-insert in his own game. Easiest shit I ever done. Axe goes to +8. Gets some gems. Strength goes to 97. Crunch some souls. 50 vials. 7 bolt paper. What? I don't really like this checkpoint because it's not that interesting. I sprint past the first guys, duck under the next 2, dash past the next guy and bait a couple million into dying at the top. I had to hop off after dying because my brother wanted to record a presentation for college, which ended up in my game recordings.
These 3 studies strongly shaped our program's approach.
A half hour later, the way is open. Shock and horror. The elevator is an elevator, and the second elevator is a second elevator. Onto the meat of the Nightmare of Mentos. Up until this point, I have not had a single honorable 1v1 with Amygdala. Not a single boss fight was spared from my antics, because in some way, shape, or form I exploited the AI to play on my terms. I used the environment. I used external forces. I used summons, etc. Even Amygdalia was stuck in a screaming animation for half the fight. But now I have none of those. No environment, no spare amygdalas, no summons. I had to learn. I had to bring down my shield and finally address my problems head on. I could face its front, but that would boil it down to attrition, where I was relying on hitboxes, working. Or I pick its butt and boil it down to dine and dash. I was relying on hitboxes working here too, and when those weren't my problems, I had the camera to worry about. The De Niro attack was very good at fucking it all the way to hell. There's also this funny looking animation where it swivels on a turnstile to land the stomp. Funny now, yes, but at the time I wanted death to all. I'll be back in a minute. I actually learned something. Nothing about myself, anyway. I learned how to fight amygdala properly for once, though. Now I have 2 credits saved up. I only need to use 1 of them to finish the game. I could finish it all right now. I just have to give in to Gehrman's demands in the dream and have this feverish nightmare over with. But I won't be doing that. What comes first is the DLC. Okay, now what comes first is reaching level 99 strength. I won't be upgrading any more stats, and even if I could, it's too late to change anything meaningfully. I have accepted that. I very nearly max out my axe were it not for that doggone blood rock that lies just past winter lanterns that haven't been randomized for some reason, so I'll just have to make do with +9. Other than gems, this is as good as my build gets for the rest of the video.
Mr. President, we've just been informed that we need the eye of a blood-drunk hunter.
I only have 1 credit. I kind of don't want to use it. Okay, I cheated a little bit again, but come on. This one is at least more understandable. At last, the DLC. Let's get a feel of the place. That weren't so good. Let's get a better look up around this bit. That weren't so good. Staircase? Yeah, no. How about up by the gate? Man. Alright, fine. I'll 1v1 this guy who's up close. Man. Bait them into lasering each other? Fine, I'll just fucking run past. How about that? I'll try it again, since it doesn't look that bad once I get past it all. Alright, back to square 1. Square 2. Square 3. You know, I mentioned way at the start of the video that I wanted one thing that the first run was missing. One thing, more than anything else. I wanted to be excited, to have a rise and fall of stakes, to be angry, scared, focused. But above all else, I think I have found it at long last. I think that this run is something that I have come to regret. I officially do not want to continue the run. It's this feeling of absolute despair, that I could be doing so many other things that are so much better, but I either can't or won't. And I don't because of this feeling. If I gave up right at this point, I'd be losing something. Something like passion, or zest, or juice, or sauce. I don't really quite know how to describe it. It's a fire in my stomach. Pushing on in circumstances like this, I feel, unlock endorphin reserves that humans had long forgotten. Surviving a harsh winter, or felling a mammoth, or rediscovering a well. Whatever this is called, it's food for the soul. I'll tell you now that this is the worst thing I have ever experienced. This checkpoint, I mean. With that said, let's move forth. It takes the better part of 10 minutes to clear out the spawn. This is going to be great. The sole survivor shoos me away, narrowly killing me, and indirectly a new family of 3 in the vicinity. If I'm being honest, this was purely a scout mission. I didn't expect to survive, but that's not because of folding my deck. I wanted to actually get a good look at my environment, to create a mental map for when I run blind. I mean, I'd die, obviously, but here's my plan. I'm going to devote however long it takes to running past everything and banking on RNG to guide me. I need to run up along the right side and stick to it. Because if I keep going right, I will end up at the shortcut lever. This single lever will spare me hours of suffering. Yes, I said hours. If you don't already know, it takes about 4 minutes of sprinting at full speed with no impediments to reach the shortcut door that's right by the bonfire. So to set this up, I found a safe spot, right on the staircase that only makes my cap full of sleam every now and then. Wangyarp aflaga mabakcha plorg enemies die on the other side of the gate, and next comes the enemies in the adjacent plaza. With them all dead, it was time for the heist. The sole survivor may have earned the title, or maybe not, because of the privilege of its spawn location, but man, I wish it nothing but ass pain. I very nearly get spanked to death on the way up the stairs, but this is only half the battle. I pumped myself full of microchips for the push. I had no time to wait for a good pattern, no space to distance myself from it, and no real plan beyond this point. All I had was faith.
Rasclart.
So with that done, I have now completed like 2% of the route I have to take. It gets worse, I assure you. I idiotically run for my life up to the cathedral and die to the ball, of all things, and waste a really good attempt, the likes of which I wouldn't see for another like 20 minutes. But the gate is open, and I'm close enough that it doesn't hurt so bad. Classic baiting in the stairs leaves the right side path open for baiting of 2 varieties. I bait this guy into getting lasered by his friends, in the butt, and I stab his hands to death with my axe. With that cleared, I can waddle up to the secondary staircase before the cathedral. It's alright as far as baiting goes, but one of the better discoveries is that this giant ball does shitloads of damage to the amygdala too, even with the scaling bringing it to 15,000 HP. It's been scaling. I'll just put a graphic on screen for that shit. After more baiting, I am now just about a quarter of the way to the shortcut, after all of that shit, which is by far the easiest part. So how did the assessment of the next part go? Well, for one thing, I noticed that the sentry turrets damage amygdala, so I just wait and see what happens.
What the fucking hell, bro?
The fruit of over an hour of labor was a single chance at the bridge section, but humans learn and humans get lucky. I got so lucky, in fact, that I was on full bullets and heals on this attempt about 20 minutes later. The sight that I behold for the first time is of utter despair. Nothing but dark thoughts. The river of blood is charred by nuclear lasers. The houses torn asunder by much the same. I watch them kill each other from afar, but what I'm also doing is staring right at every blockade I would have to find a secret for. The void really does stare back. This guy on the turret is AFK, but it doesn't matter. If only I wasn't aware of any of this. If, instead of it being laid out like this in plain sight, I could compartmentalize it in my mind and dull it down somewhat, to blur the lines. I know I said that this is where the soul grows, but that is done through great hardship. Through pushing on when you can't go any further. It's motivational in theory, but in the moment, it's fucking tough, man. It takes everything I have to even look at the screen. What isn't usually said about moments of growth is that they are awful and uncomfortable, and will see you at your lowest. More than anything right now, I'm scared of regretting things in life. Yet I constructed this whole scenario. What are my plans here? Is it to prove to myself that I really can face things that I may regret? Or am I proving to myself just how terrible of an idea that is, and that I should do nothing for the rest of my life? Since that's safer. Like usual, even in a bout of self-questioning, I push these thoughts to the back of my mind, because addressing them is scariest of all. I'm now to the point where I regularly don't even record between attempts until I reach the bridge, because I pathetically believed I wouldn't be making it here that often. But I got back here on the very next try. I even pick up the souls I had. Souls I would probably never get to use, since everything is max level. Or, well, my own max level. That or I'll just lose them. But I kept doing it. Except now I believed it was because it made more sense to only start here, since we already know how the previous bit goes. Bait gate, stairs more stairs, ball here. Anyway, if I was going to get over this slump, I would have to pull at the reins. I wouldn't be done in so easily. What I had to do, unfortunately, was learn about my environment. I would have to do my very best to survive, but ultimately I wasn't going to be able to do this without thinking of a strategy. And as anyone knows, humans tend to think of the best solution right after it was most needed. The river itself would leave all but one amygdala squirming behind a carriage. The house would inevitably leave one left too, but it would take much longer. When the second does die, I am left with no choice but to go through the house and take stock of the next problem. It quickly devolves, and I'm quickly ousted from my spot. Then I remember. There's a cave underneath the bridge. A cave that is perfect for baiting every single remaining amygdala, because it goes in pretty deep. A cave that lies just barely out of reach. I died to bullshit. But I had already accepted that. I learned something, and without exception, learning is always a net positive. Eventually, and by that I mean 36 minutes later, the cave beckons me as I desperately scramble inside, away from the dangers outside, but just close enough to think about my next strategy. From the top of the bridge, I was able to see all the way down the River of Blood. I was able to make out another smaller bridge with shitloads of amygdalas chilling inside, but they were able to escape, periodically. In the Elden Ring run, if I looked away, collision would unload and the Rykards would be allowed to squeeze through whatever collision it was, but I don't think it's happening in this game. If I played it right though, I'd be able to bait a Pez dispenser of them to my location, an indefinite source of damage. Once they stopped, I'd be able to use the one in the house to damage the guy next to me, albeit very slowly. Throwing a wrench in this plan was a single idiot who got stuck behind some gravestones, who seemingly never took damage. But he was pushing everyone toward me, so for that I am grateful. But like it always does, the situation devolves. I am beset with greed, and I am anxious. Combine the two and you get the god-awful idea of simply gunning it. But it was possible. From my position by the carriage, out of the line of fire from the house guy, I came up with a plan to run by the amygdala right next to me and sprint across the bridge. And honestly, this was more than feasible. You know what? I don't even have to get that lucky to do it. I just wait for the right moment and pounce. It was right there. If I hadn't been pushed off by an unscrupulous hitbox, I would have had it. I would have had it. One might ask, what was I doing while I waited for everything to die? Well, I watched the greatest TV show of all time, Uma Musume Pretty Derby, to get over my fear of horses. To put into perspective just how much of this run was waiting, the entire show was 13 hours, plus a feature-length movie, and by the time I got to this part of the DLC, I was over halfway through. By the time the run finished, it was long done. With every failed attempt, I would try to reach a state of 100% gratitude. I would then go through an entire attempt, full of gratitude. And by the time I got to this part of the DLC, I was surging through each failed attempt with complete gratitude. Each time I was struck down, I would become more powerful than you could imagine, just like a nettle that swings back and stings you in the shin when stood on. Granted, this usually results in a total annihilation with a nearby stick, but then it grows back twice as fast. This then gets beaten down with an even bigger stick, and so on. After a certain point, I wasn't angry, or sad, or even scared. What was growing more powerful with each horrible hitbox, each bullshit laser, each and every fruitless endeavor, was not my knowledge. No, that has long since been filled. It wasn't my desire to confront the emotions whirling within. It wasn't my mediocre skill at this game. With each attempt of full gratitude, I was building something else entirely. I went from believing that the life one lives is full of change, that you must open yourself, that you will experience regret, that you will die one day, and that you must accept this, to knowing that it is absolutely hilarious. How absurd it is that we exist at all. That this simple fact is, above all else, pure comedy. Not because of any macabre coping or that therein lies a joke, just that it is genuinely funny. This isn't to say that I don't care, because I do. Or I don't. I don't quite know. Whatever the case, I was struggling to hold it back. Back to regularly scheduled programming. The result of my training arc has culminated in a wave of elation. A bit like a star going supernova, I suppose. What comes after the blast? I don't know. Probably dinner, or going to bed or something. More likely though, burnout. Anyway, this whole gambit is just baiting, and more baiting. And the whole time I am watching horse girls racing each other, compelling me to go outside and frolic like I was always supposed to. It's really not so complicated though. I just wait for everyone to have their fun and fuck it up the ladder, where I stare down each and every miserable little fiend, all glassing each other's anuses in an effort to come even close to my godlike persuasion. The king of the planet then trots down along the lake of blood to the next checkpoint. Now, as for Ludwig, it was just an arena. I could probably use the stairs to my advantage some other how, but I had to hunker down for a low receive to catch the curveball. That NPC that talks during the cutscene, he's counted as an enemy, which is tragic, and he's been randomized for whatever reason. I get smeared instantaneously. Let's be real here though, the fact that there are two of them only fills me with contempt. You hear my hand pop there? Jesus. I had no intention of a fair fight, of course, and a fair fight there would thusly not be. Ludwig Dulla's friend beams him up the ass so hard that he briefly turns into a horse again. But alas, his planning and forethought is not meant to be, because I am turning him into glue. He nearly slimes me, and in sheer frustration spends the next 5 minutes tearing his arms off over and over and over while I try to organize some sort of agreement with his roommate. College life is just like that. With that out of the way, I now have to share a respawn point with this dickhead for the foreseeable future, which may be forever, because these two NPCs up here are the hardest fight in the whole game. I beat them, precious, but I forgot to get Lawrence's skull at the cathedral. Oh wow, I totally forgot that I picked up the skull earlier during an off-camera mining session. Warping aside, this took an extra 40 minutes. Now I have the astral clock tower to look forward to. Took exactly an hour, funnily enough. In preparation, I used the credit I earned to level the other stats to bring myself to exactly level 99, with 99 strength and 10 everything else. I will have my pie, and call it so good. I spend the rest on blood vials. This area is all sorts of cuckoo, crazy, fucked up bull-ass. I fuck about some, as is normal, while everything around me goes to ruin, as is normal. Good thing it's in my favor. Apparently though, I don't need to do that. I can just bomb it straight up the stairs to wherever I need to go. I really do wish I could describe any of this bull ass, but you can just forgive me this one time, right? I gotta be honest, my ass hurts from sitting down so long. I'm sitting at 15,000 words and there's still a bit to go. I'm going to bed. Thank you, past me, for writing that in. This balcony reminds me of those times when the house party is in full swing, and you go to get some fresh air because you're pretending you don't want to call an ambulance for either yourself or the host. Back in we go, to experience the smell of vomit and mucosal membrane. The whole ordeal is a complete fucking mess, and I don't know if it's a coincidence or retribution, but I seem to just be able to waltz past everything without taking damage, right up until it's catastrophic. Like with any house party, I suddenly find myself near a ladder and I'm compelled to climb it, with the intent of shifting everything upward by about 20 meters. And well, that's the lever. Off it goes. Boss fight? Nope. If I died every 20 seconds here for the next 36 minutes, that's a lot of deaths. But that's what happened. On my first success, I shall show you the necessary procedure. RNG through the orgy downstairs, RNG through the door, RNG into the elevator, RNG up the elevator, RNG out of the elevator, RNG through the bouncers, RNG through the door, RNG up the stairs, twice, and finally, RNG to the boss door. I mentioned earlier that I neglected to tick the box making this fight fair. You would think that all I need to do is wait for everyone to zap each other here, and I thought so too. Don't worry, we're both stupid, but you're more stupid. Fuck you. I now had to have a semi-fair fight, which I wasn't prepared for, and neither was this guy, it seems. He fucking lasered me through the sunflower.
Oh, okay.
My game just crashed.
Because I have literally no bank, I will keep this credit for myself again. A total of 2, might I say. Lady Maria has me scared. Not just because she touched my hand, which is punishable by death, but because she's an NPC, right? The very last thing I wanted right now was an NPC fight, because for some reason, they are only able to be beaten by elevators, and nothing else. But no, it was not an NPC fight. I poppered a beast blood pellet and ascended beyond my already godlike status to become President of Space. Never before had such an exchange been so one-sided. I forgot to record me upgrading my axe to +10 by using Insight to buy a rock, but I did. And then I bought some vials. On to the fishing hamlet, which I already know like the town I live in, because I'm pretty sure Miyazaki visited one time and was like, why the fuck is everyone a fish? I expected fishing hamlet to be a lot easier, but I was mistaken. It's like Forbidden Woods all over again. Tight, winding corridors and aerial attacks, and even the shark giants in the well are spanking me. I thought I was past this. I thought I was past this too. You know the formula by now. Wait, bait, yada yada yada. But check this shit out. I don't know who this guy replaced, but it must have been someone of great stature because he fucking blasts me to hell and back with a laser barrage straight out of One Piece. How this has only happened now of all times, I don't know, but I am forever grateful. I'm also grateful that I can just get out of my chair as soon as I die, because the spawn point is the best spot to bait. And wait, the Prime Minister of the universe shall now invent a new word, combining the two. But wait. I had no idea until right here that this ladder could be kicked down, because why the fuck would you do that? In Forbidden Woods, that little cave is only useful for me. And boy is this ladder useful. I just go into this room and stare at my shiny bucket head until everything, I'll let you guess, dies. For 23 minutes. Wow. Once that's all cleared, or mostly cleared, or not really cleared at all, I have the next bit to worry about. Wait, I stopped worrying, didn't I? I have this next bit to, experience. No. There's this next bit. Look at this, look at this. The laser guy's here again. What the fuck is that? What? I picked this back up the next day. Smash the like button in the face like a boss, and go take a look at Koss having a beach episode. I wonder how that slice of life ends. I don't know who this man is, but he is hell-bent on ruining absolutely nothing. He fucking sucks. I was seriously expecting this part of Fishing Hamlet to be beyond cognition, but I mean, I already have this shortcut done quicker than I would have in the base game. The sight is so ghastly that I settle into my submissive beta approach and try baiting enemies to die, when in reality I can just run away. No, run forward, even, causing what I think were the snails to just disconnect from life. The suspiciously rectal-looking cave welcomes me with cold, greasy walls, and let's run that back. The cold, greasy cave has nothing on my local chipper, the wettest chips this side of the valley, and has nothing on the sheer determination of this elevator push. Final shortcut achieved. It may feel like there are no stakes, and that's intentional. Ever since the first checkpoint, it's been a whimsical, dreamy, nauseating adventure. Orphan is a regular amygdala fight. What more could you want? I have nothing to spend on anything anymore except blood vials, and I may as well, since I need to use a credit to warp back to Odin Chapel, for 2 reasons. One being the umbilical cord in the workshop, and the other being to do the alien side quest. No, wait, no, I need to get the key first. Does that count anymore? I don't know, depending on what counts and what doesn't, I either have -2 or 5 credits. In the meantime, the church workshop seems to be developing the Sloppenheimer cannon, and lighting this bitch up. 2 remain. 1 on each level, but the lower one stands no chance against an unexpected team-up between the protagonist and myself. Instead of dealing with the guy downstairs, I continue up the way and get thrown off the side like an idiot. So I rearrange my molecules in such a way that I appear back on the 2nd floor and eliminate the threat. Now it's time to play ladder tag with a fucking knife-wielding tentacle and have my bucket flattened like an idiot. But we do make it up. What awaits me appears to be a one-way ticket to Pronebone Town, giving and giver. Ilan's school escapees appear to be forced off the railing in an effort to keep Tomodachi Land a secret from the masses. This is all, well, it's something. I don't really know what the kin orphans have been eating, but they're eating well, it looks like. How about I'll just squeeze in here. Don't mind me. It's like a Dutch nightclub. In the meantime, I began working on my college re-registration form. 20 minutes later, I find myself 1v1ing the only guy that's been grinding everyone to powder for me. Sorry, bud, you got humaned. The inside of the orphanage has, unlike everything else so far, been made slightly harder. All I'm allowed is a small corner to cry into, while I get dominated from afar. Another 10 minutes I spend here waiting, and I can't really explain what was happening to me at this stage, but I feel like this clip encapsulates it pretty well. So I do all that shit from the start. Squeezing myself between enormous cheeks and everything. Crying in the corner and everything. The alien side quest takes a sudden twist when an alien shows up. Like the small tentacle ones that are terrible. I think this is because it possesses the key to the orphanage. Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. It's right there. Slight technical difficulty incoming. I forgot to record myself beating Emissary and Ebritas. Why would I want to record myself sitting completely still for 30 minutes though, when I already have footage of me doing just that? I wouldn't. And that's where I forgot to turn it back on. So like, I don't know, you probably know how Emissary went already. Except when I died to the guys by the elevator above Ebritas, the Emissary spawned back in with this guy at the helm. Why? I don't know. And I don't care. After this, I used my sole remaining credit, I think, to warp to Odin Chapel again because I forgot to get the umbilical cord. With my new sole remaining credit, I think, I warped back to Forbidden Woods to get to Yosefka's clinic. PTSD in one simple step tutorial. The septic tank divers seem to be out in full force these days, but what they forgot to consider is that I invented septic tank diving. DM for more info. What follows is yet more bewaiting. Exciting. I have nothing to add. I got the final umbilical cord and the Canehurst summons. I felt like it was a fitting way to finish the video. For this particular run, it's completely pointless. We'll have a boring fight and will constitute solely of pain. So I use my sole remaining credit, maybe, to warp to Hemwick, where I die before I'm even able to get on the carriage somehow. In any case, I can confirm as Bloodborne's official bug tester that there is nothing of note to be found here. Carriage still works. Let's lock in one last time. The starting area of Pain Herd is easier. That is it. Hear my jaw pop there? The rest will have fucked me up for life. The first time I went through this place, there was absolutely nothing of note. There were several screaming amygdalas doing nothing but screaming, a respectable grind. The problems begin at this happening. I don't understand how or why, but I really hope that whatever that wasn't a permanent change. Yeah, it wasn't. Yes, it was. It definitely was. That room is totally fucked now. Now I get to just wait around and do nothing. Yay. It was this fatal error, this air of complacency, that completely ruined everything. It turns out that several hundred hostile amygdalas spawn in whenever you touch a specific spot, this being one of them, and the previous, and likely there are a ton of spots that do that for some reason. A half hour later, the room was cleared. This is going to be bad. This wasn't even idle waiting. I was locked in the whole time because of random bullshit from through the walls and underneath and from wherever. Luckily for me, I'd cleared the room of any hostility. Holy fuck! Man, I can't catch a break. At least that other room was cleared too. Past all that bullshit were perfectly dispersed sentry turrets ready to laser me into the brick wall. I refuse to play your stupid games, even though I'm literally playing your stupid game. I make a break for it with great success, and come across the room. This room is a culmination of every evil the world has seen. A chamber consisting solely of nuclear apocalypses. It may have been cleared this time, from this angle, but in through the left is my only shortcut. How I will get out of that elevator is beyond me. No, it really is, because that's in the future. No, it's happening now, I guess. How was I going to make it out of the elevator? Like this. Now, having made it out of there, I'm going to have to bait everything in the room to die all over again. And what does it look like inside once it's all over? Well, let's take a look, shall we? I mean, it could be a lot worse. At least, my retinas are mostly usable up in here. The bar is pretty low, man. Searching every single goddamn window leads me to the very last one. Haha, very clever game. And out into this absolute shit show. It's honestly extremely doable. It's extremely doable other than this guy slowly approaching me using flotation powers. Yeah, this guy is becoming a serious issue now. Yeah, I don't... What can I do against this? Like... It's... Yeah, that's all I've got. Kanehurst has beaten me. That's what happens when you try to take shit seriously. It's time to finish the game. I use my final remaining credit to warp to Hunter's Dream to go kill an old, disabled guy who turns into a giant monster. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you want to call me stupid, you should, because I have not missed a single comment so far. So kids, I guess the lesson we learned today is that 12:27 o'clock is black, yellow, and blue. If you've watched this far, you're either fast asleep, waiting for the next video to play, or you're in the demographic that may want to hear that I now have a Patreon. Its purpose is pretty much exclusively to help me pay my bills, because I couldn't fathom putting ads on my videos, but I need stipulation for my gambling addiction. It's a $5 a month. You'll appear in the next video's intro. I may or may not post confidential info on it, which depends on if I remember or not. The next video is reviewing toilets in Dark Souls. So long!
What? Did I? Oh, do you have to fucking eat the umbilical cords? Oh well. Oh no, I missed out on a boring boss fight.